Joel Granis with Granis Racing. This is our stick shift Supra. The car is a 3.2 liter built by Brian Roach. The block is a Bullet Race engineering block from Australia. So it's a billet block. It's a wet deck, so I still run water through it. When I first built this car, I did it all so it still could be streetable, but it's kind of grown into a monster to where I don't even really have any desire to do that anymore. But it has turn signals, brake lights, all the stuff that to make it go on the street if I wanted to, put an alternator on it, and I could probably drive it on the street, but it turned into something different now. Head is done by Head Games Motorworks. It's like their full port and polish race head. So it's a stock cast head with everything done to it. The cams are GSC R2Ms. That's the methanol cam, and that's the fuel that I run. So I run Sunoco brand methanol, which is the same as like VPM1. A BC crank, 3.2 crank. I run aluminum rods, and I think it has CP pistons in it this time on the refresh. We do about 40 to 50 passes, and then we do a refresh on the motor. So it's relatively reliable for a 3.2 liter that makes 2,300 or 2,400 horsepower. The transmission and driveline setup is my GR1000F face-bladed transmission. It's got a Bonifonte adjustable clutch triple disc. The rear end is the 4-link setup now with basically a 9-inch straight axle setup. The suspension is all Precision Race suspension. They're out of Pennsylvania, right near my chassis guy, which is Precision Chassis in Pottstown, PA. He did all the chassis work, the 4-link work. And then all the tuning work is done by Chris Delgado from ProSpeed. And it's a Motec M150, PDM, all the Motec goodies in there, the dash. And Chris has been with me for probably 6 years. So Chris is like the brains behind making this car really run and be reliable. We've been struggling a little bit with this car, not only with breaking a transmission earlier in the week and with the new rear end setup, but now we have turbo issues. So this the turbo on it now is a 98 millimeter, but our 106, I'm not sure exactly what happened, but it was smoking really bad. Luckily, Precision was here. It is one of their newest next gen 98s, so it should work pretty good. I don't know if it'll make as much as a 106, but it should do really well. But since Texas, that's really the only thing that's changed engine-wise on the car is the turbo itself. We made the change to the rear end, so we put a 4-link in the car, which is a solid axle setup. Had too many close calls with the IRS. Broken axle at like 150 mile an hour. That scared me pretty bad.
Granis moving on. No, Granis saves it as that thing was completely sideways.
So I wanted to make it safe, and we put the solid axle in there with the 4-link. And we made that change, and we came here and we were going to test during the hurricane. The hurricane knocked out Bradenton Motorsports Park, so we couldn't test there. So we just decided we were just going to come right here to the event and test. So the first pass we made here, I broke the transmission. So then we had no testing there. So we basically have been using the qualifying passes as our test and tune. And we had 5 of them luckily, and this event has gone so smooth, and luckily we got all 5 in, and on the 5th qualifier, we actually got it to where it works, and we got it to leave well. We tried to make a change to the car on top of the solid axle, which it was probably a mistake to try it, but we wanted to try it. We wanted to try leaving with no nitrous, and it didn't work. We were just frying the tire on every hit. Too much RPM on the leave, and it would just spin the tire. So we went back to our old way of doing things. On the 4th pass, on the 4th qualifier, it worked. It came out, but it was there was not enough power there. The nitrous didn't come on. So the 5th one, we had pretty good confidence that it was going to work, and it did. We ran a 687 at 212 mile an hour, so qualified 2nd behind Grubworm. We're going into the 2nd round of eliminations and just hoping to progress through to the final, and maybe we'll get a really cool finale here tonight against Grubworm. That's the goal, is to get all the way to the finals and then throw it all at it. I think it's a strange pro case with I think we're running a 371 gear in it now. We have it set up with a pretty tall gear now so that we can go through the traps at like 220 if we need to. before, before we were kind of on the limiter when we were going through the traps at like 218. So we wanted to get up there where we can, you know, go 220, 225 maybe even with that new gear.
Yeah, man. Well, good luck out there, man.
All right.
It's so good seeing this thing back out.
Yeah.
And we'll catch up with you in a bit after the next round.
Sounds good.
Thanks, man.
So after every 2 passes or so, we get in here, we check the clutch, we check it for wear. So I check it with this gauge here, which is basically a dial indicator, and it tells me how many thou that the clutch is worn. And what I'll do is I'll square it up so it's back to 0 and back to like it's like a new clutch basically. You're just adjusting the pressure plate towards the flywheel to take that wear out. We'll also check the log. So Chris will check the tune, and if it looks like it's slipping too much, I might add some more bass. So there's a base adjustment and a counterweight adjustment. So if they're slipping too much on the start, I'll add some more base to it. That'll make it tightened up. If it's slipping too much up top, I'll add some counterweight to it, and that's going to make it lock up sooner in RPM. So the way this clutch works is I basically just drop the clutch pedal, and the clutch slips automatically, and it uses mechanical adjustment to make it lock up where I want it to lock up. So it works really nice. So this transmission is a face-plated GR1000F is the package that I call it. So other than the clutch and the bell housing, which is a little more specific to straight up drag racing, this transmission is the same one I sell to the guys that are out there racing these face-plated T56 Magnums. So same OEM gear set, face-plated by Liberties. It's pretty crazy how much power these things really can hold on an OEM gear set. The trans itself is a brand new one because we actually broke our first trans in testing here. So that was my 3rd trans. So after about 50 passes, I refresh them and I switch them back and forth. So that was the first one we actually ever like blew up, and I think I just knocked the teeth off the input shaft. I've knocked dogs off the input before, which is basically when they remove the synchro and put the dog rings on, it has like 8 teeth. So I knocked the like dog teeth off before, but I never actually broke a complete transmission. That was the first time I ever broke one. So I probably have, probably 150 passes on these transmissions, and I finally broke one. So that's kind of a testament to how crazy and how freakishly strong these T56 Magnums are. Struggling earlier because when we first got here we were trying to leave without nitrous, which is, you know, something we've always kind of run it with nitrous, and we were trying to do something a little different, and we were struggling with the clutch a little bit. The whole new rear end setup, we're like, well, let's just switch everything that we've been wanting to switch for the last couple of years, and let's try and see if we can make it work. Well, fighting the clutch is really not the ideal setup for what we're trying to do. That's going to get changed before World Cup, but now that we've got that back under control, the first 2 successful passes, I mean, the rear end stuff was almost dead nuts on. Like, we had to make a small little correction.
thanks to Eric LaFerriere for helping us out with that. He came down, knocked that thing out of the park, and it was pretty much 98% of the way there on the first pass. I had to make a little tweak here and there after, but that's good. Now that the rear end's doing what it's supposed to do, the front end's doing what it's supposed to do, and we're just feeding the power in a little bit at a time while we're working the clutch. This particular clutch setup's just, it doesn't have as wide of a range of like the car makes so little power out of the hole and so much power on top that we need a slightly different setup to really use it best. So we're making the best out of what we got. Joel's down there burning his fingers trying to get it tightened up a little more for our next pass. So we'll see. I hope it'll go mid 60 on this next one, but we're kind of just throwing darts at the dartboard on this one.
You guys throwing more power at it, or you just
oh
trying
yeah,
to
it
get it
should
330 better?
So we had to change the turbo because the other turbo had a little bit of oil leak issue. So theoretically, it should go 220 on this pass, but we're not 100% sure what this turbo is going to do up there. It might go a little quicker, it might not go as quick, we're not sure. But we are putting more power in it from basically the leave all the way through. So everything's just going to have to line up right because we're changing a lot of things on this last pass, just swinging for a fence to see what it'll do. You know, it might spin, it might go down and fly, we don't know. It's educated guesses at this point.
Okay, so what I'm doing now is I'm adding counterweight to make the clutch lock up sooner, and also we're going to add more power to it for this pass. So I want to make sure that the clutch has enough clamping load to hold the added power that we're going to put into it. Go ahead around, DJ.
So how's that last pass?
It's pretty smooth. It's pretty smooth. The personal best a 680 at I think 216.
So you're into the final now with Grubworm?
Yeah, that's what I wanted. Okay, that's good. So basically he's turning the crank for me to get these. There's 6 levers on this clutch, and each lever has a bolt with washers on it, and I'm adding washers to that bolt. So this is like minimal changes, like 1 washer on each is like 1 gram per washer. So 6 grams total, but it can make a giant difference in the way the clutch acts. It's hard to tell what I'm even doing in there, but I'm using both hands to take a nut off of that bolt, and then I'm gonna add this weight in. So I got 4 left, so I got, after this one I'll be halfway through this. Usually we don't really make counterweight changes, but on this one we're gonna go pretty big. So I wanna make sure I have counterweight on. I don't wanna blow through the clutch.
Chris, 221.
Oh, yeah. The turbo's doing work.
Talk about a tune-up.
Yeah, that was an educated guess. Just got lucky.
Congrats, brother.
Thanks, man. Super happy with that.
Thanks to power. Oh, baby, coming down right now. Let's go, man. All right, all 6 winners. Put their hands together for that man. 669, 221 for Joel Grant. I'll tell you what, man, they struggled for 2 days, and And right now, he has got to be on cloud 9. Oh, I'm sorry, no. He's on a cloud of $5,000 cash.
Oh man, dude, congratulations, brother. That was a wild run.
Yeah, it was cool.
You had an eventful weekend.
Yeah.
From going to probably the absolute worst outcome starting off.
Yep.
And you just pulled through it, man.
Yeah.
That was wild. That was
Yeah, I wanted the record, but I'll take the win. I'll take the win. We got World Cup coming up.
So that was 669.
Yep, 221. Yep. So we put almost all of it in there on that pass. So, yeah.
That's on the 98.
That's on the 98. Yep.
You normally run a 106.
Yep.
That's wild.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's wild. That's
It's
a
their
lot, man.
new like
221,
it's
that's a
their
lot.
new next gen XPR is what they call it. So it's like it supposedly makes like 150 horsepower more than the XPR. So it's a badass turbo.
That's a badass turbo. I mean, it's obviously making some horsepower to go
Oh, yeah.
221 mile an hour. So that's the H pattern mile an hour record.
Yeah.
What was it previously?
218. I did that down in Texas.
Wow. It was so awesome to see that pass.
Thank you.
You drove that thing.
Yeah, it was wheeling from. I don't remember it, but Chris said it was in a wheelie the whole way out. So 172 in the 8.
What was your best 60 foot previous?
We did a 112 in IRS actually. So
Wow. You got a. I mean, that's cooking all over that slip. I mean, 330 8th mile. That thing was on a mission, brother.
yeah, that 8th mile an hour. That's impressive.
Thank you. Awesome job. When you started out this weekend, I didn't.
Oh man, I didn't think it was gonna
I didn't
happen.
think you'd be there. Y'all worked y'all's tails off. Hard work pays off.